Our next section discusses changing our perception. Believe me, a fulfilling new life is possible. Changing your perspective on your grief is necessary. It starts with rewiring your brain with a more positive outlook. What do you fear? What are you trying to avoid? Why are you stuck? Answering these questions will foster your growth and help you toward a path forward. Let's start working towards changing our view of our new life. Again, keep in mind that there is no timeline, but I am introducing what occurred in my life and how these shifts helped me. The Kwanzaa cherry tree was just blooming when the for sale sign went up on our property. I was grief-stricken, but the smell of the blossoms made me think of my new home. It was May 2018 when I sat on my patio with my sister looking out at those beautiful trees. My body was exhausted from the past 6 months, but my mind found a rare and peaceful moment. Escaping our house in the country and finding a new, welcoming community was a good decision. I felt that I could actually manage my battle with grief and begin a new journey. My new community offered many activities. I introduced myself to the groups that gave me the most comfort, the art guild and the golf course. Soon I felt comfortable to begin participating in painting and golfing. The first section of this course was the story I wrote and read at a writers group meeting. To this day, I am not sure how I stood and read my story, but each small step I had taken prior built my confidence and gave me strength to open up and tell my story. Of course, the grief would come back, as it still does, but how I get through it has changed. As time passes, the intensity of feelings has lessened. I work on rewiring my brain and changing my attitude every day. Whether it is reading a daily meditation or taking a walk or visiting a friend, I remember the memories of my past and then move my thoughts to the beauty of my new life. Early after the accident, I searched online for resources to help me. The seeds were in my head, but I had not been ready to take action. One group that I reached out to was based on the life reentry model and the basis of the book, Second First. I met 5 other widows, each at different stages of their grief. We met for 6 weeks, followed the course, and learned that we were not alone in our pain. As hard as it was to reopen the deep wounds of my story, it was also a relief. I cherish those women. They not only got it, they have remained my supportive friends to this day. One woman from the group had lost her husband and was struggling with helping 3 boys. She realized that there was no specific resources for grieving children. Although therapists were available, they needed a support group of peers. Adolescent strength would grow out of sharing and opening up their peers, similar to the strength I experienced from sharing with other widows. That really stuck with me, and I knew that was a group I wanted to give back to. I joined the women in their efforts to work with adolescents. I began with a training program to learn how to best volunteer. This woman has become a very dear friend, and working with the young adults has helped me personally and been very gratifying. Moving forward is not easy after trauma, but there are several ways to help us change our attitudes and start down a new path. Each of the following activities helped me step forward in my life. The first 2 are from the book Second First by Christina Rasmussen. Reframing. This is a way of viewing and experience events, ideas, concepts, and emotions to find more positive alternatives. We're trying to rewire our brains to think in a more positive manner. For example, I moved from thinking about my husband's last moments in my car to visualizing him 2 weeks prior wearing his Superman Halloween costume. Think about some of your negative thoughts and how you might reframe them. Plugins. We have been in what's called a waiting room, that place where we are in suspension. It could be any of the emotions of grief: not eating, mistake making, being angry, bargaining, screaming, crying phase. Little by little, we can make small changes to re enter into our life. These small changes, possibly only about 5% change, are called plugins. Some of my plugins were to join some of the clubs in my community and go back to my yoga class. Your plugin can be as simple as changing the route you take to and from work. Helping helps. Find an activity you enjoy that stimulates your mind and keeps you engaged. For me, it was volunteering some of my time to give back, which was both rewarding and a confidence builder. The next section is about year one and beyond. The reality of closing accounts, dealing with probate, or in my case, dealing with law enforcement is overwhelming. And then each day that was once meaningful can become a dreaded time that brings fear and depression. Learning positive coping strategies can ease some of the pain. It's also important to realize that we all have cracks that may be exposed during the first year without our loved ones. As humans, we all have our share of problems, and we may deal with or avoid them depending on where we are in our lives. The roots of our problems differ, whether it's growing up in poverty, abuse, mental illness, divorce, a death of a person close to you, or maybe even just moving. All result in emotions and feelings that will stay with us for a lifetime. These are emotional scars or cracks in our lives. We learn coping skills, both positive and negative, to move us forward or backwards. Sometimes they might even be covered up and hidden altogether. Grief has a way of exposing these cracks and bringing them to the surface as if they were brand new. Your band-aid is removed and your wounds are exposed. It could be from a trigger such as an anniversary, birthday, or the first vacation you take alone. The first year of your grief may have several events that will impact your mood, sleep, or overall health. As much as you may want to numb these feelings, maybe with alcohol or drugs, any of these negative coping strategies actually set you back to numbness and will prolong the healing. One friend of mine who had lost a daughter talked about these moments when the waves would sweep her out to sea. That wildness of a rough wave when you really feel like you are being swept off the shore. But then it passes through hard work and knowing that this wave of pain will also pass and you will come back to shore, at least for a time. Little by little, the waves of pain become smaller and you are able to negotiate getting back to solid ground quicker. As the time passes, you may feel that everyone else is carrying on with their lives. They may even think that you are over your loss or should be getting better. And sometimes they won't want to bring up your loved one. This is probably because they aren't sure how you may react, but to you, it may seem like they are forgetting the person who has died. Try your best to bring up happy memories and funny stories, the good and the bad of their personality or life. It's important to remember that life is a mixed bag, and romanticizing the past can make you think your current life is not good enough. This doesn't mean we aren't remembering how we were affected and influenced by our loved ones. A part of them will always be with us as we move forward, creating our new identities. As we negotiate our first year of grief, it's important to create personal rituals to remember your loved ones. I also think that having a plan helped me as birthdays, anniversaries, or holidays approach. Sometimes the buildup of knowing an important date was coming was actually worse than the day itself. I have a lot of examples of what you might try to celebrate life rather than the sadness of the loss. You could prepare your loved one's favorite foods, watch their favorite movie, light a candle, or play a song that they listen to. Plant a tree or flower in a special area that they enjoyed visiting. Create a scrapbook or digital memory book that you can share with the family. Paint a work of art in their memory. Make a donation to a cause they supported. Ask family and friends to write a special memory and compile them in a book. What's your special way of remembering your loved one? It's hard to think of the day in the future when you will look back and say, how did I ever get through that? It really was the most difficult time of my life. Recognizing the hard work we did or are still doing creates confidence that we can handle anything. Our perseverance brings us to a place of amazing personal growth that we can only reach when we feel every ounce of our grief. Although we have different timelines, one day each of us realizes that we are starting to get better. We're able to smile again or laugh without feeling guilty. Our emotional roller coaster isn't going as fast as it had. The waves of grief still come, but there are much calmer waters in between. The nights are not as sleepless as they had been. We actually enjoy being in our own space and doing things for ourselves. We can now think about the beautiful lives we shared rather than the tragedy of death. We carry our loved ones with us and can smile at the memory rather than cry. And we are open to doing more with our lives than just surviving. When the grief journey started, our lives may have seemed like 90% sadness and 10% joy. But one day, you will see it reverse to 90% joy. And if you haven't gotten there yet, I want to reassure you that it does get better. We can actually flourish in our new lives with relationships with others, finding what excites us, seeing there are new possibilities, and having a true appreciation for our existence. When I left our home of 14 years, I moved to a community that would be my new support system. I have made so many new friends and sometimes question how these relationships came to me after such a tragedy. The community also gave me an opportunity to return to one of my passions, creating art. I don't know when I had stopped painting, but somehow our lives got busy and I pushed the art aside. Whatever your passion is, find it, as it will nourish your soul and give you a purpose. For me, I also wanted to give back and help others who were also in pain. It started with Adam's House, a nonprofit that offers grief education and allows children who have suffered a loss to have peer support through sharing their stories together. As I mentioned earlier in the course, helping helps. This is not just about giving back to the children and their parents. It is also gratifying to me to be able to listen and understand what the families are going through. When my day job was no longer fulfilling me, this new opportunity helped to start filling the hole in my heart. And then I found more volunteer work, which led me to Vita Media. I hope this course has provided insight into ways you can move through your pain. The timing is different for everyone, but there are commonalities in our progressing our losses. The more we share our stories, the easier it may be for others. Stay strong in your journey.